Hi, folks. Welcome to the Retrospective. This is a podcast where we explore the world of engineering leadership. I'm Jeremy, and as always, with me is Peter.
Hey.
And the format of our podcast is Peter and I taking turns to cover a topic in a little bit more detail. Our goal is to make the topics actionable and to cover them in about 30 minutes. So, yeah, Peter, what's the topic that you wanted to talk about today?
Well, it's very topical. This is going live on the 24th of December. So I was thinking about talking about breaks, taking a break from work and just slowing down a bit. I want to walk around this topic a bit holistically, because I think a lot of people are naturally thinking about vacations and the holiday season that's coming up now when they're hearing the word break. But I hope that by the end of the episode, I showed everyone that there are different sizes of breaks and all of them have a very important role in resilience, energy, recharge, and even mental health and well-being.
Yeah, I think this is a very timely topic from many perspectives, not just because we're putting this out during the Christmas holiday break that many people are going to be taking, I hope.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I read in one of the recent Pragmatic Engineer newsletter articles that there's an increase in burnout in middle management. And this relates to an article in Fortune magazine, which is not really focused on engineering managers, but just middle managers in general. And basically the main point that they were saying was that they're predicting a crash for managers because a lot of middle management roles have been cut over the last year, a lot of layoffs. It's the layer that many companies wanted to remove to save money. At the same time, it's a role that, managers often are encouraged to spend a lot of time seeing how are their team members and making sure they're doing okay, and especially during this period. But the managers of those managers tend not to do that at the same rate. So as you move from an individual contributor to a manager, you often actually have less support and less care because you're expected to manage for yourself. And right now, I think specifically in engineering management, we're expecting managers to be more hands-on, closer to the code, and do everything else as well. And it's actually making the job super, super hard. So how do you survive in this environment? It's even more of an important topic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good addition. And if you read the recent Dora report, it showed also that unclear organizational priorities, it's the biggest contributor to burnout. And if you're in line management, you're managing a team of engineers, I would argue that this is hitting you the hardest because you need to provide clear priorities for your team, but you lack the support from your manager and from above of stability and the clear, non-changing organizational priorities. So it's a really hard situation to be in. So as you said, it's very timely, both because of the year and both because of this unfortunate coincidence of the situation for engineering managers. So yeah, I would urge all of our listeners to pay attention and do some breaks during this season and after in the year that's about to come.
So can you give me a short synopsis of, the whole topic, Peter, and then let's dive into the details?
Let's do that. So I'm going to talk about three kind of breaks. I broke them down by sizes, and this is not my word. There are studies that show the impact of these different sizes of breaks. I'm going to start with the macro breaks, the big ones, what everybody associates breaks with, vacations and holiday season. Meso breaks that are smaller, like 1 hour, 2 hour during the day, a few times per week. And then micro breaks, which are my favorite because they are really frequently happening during the day. And if done well, then they can have a strong positive impact on your energy levels.
Yeah, I love it. I love the way that those are broken down. Honestly, I think I'm biased in mainly thinking about the bigger breaks.
I think everyone, like before I learned about this, there was a course I did last year or 2 years ago that helped me realize these and formalize these categories. And before that, I was thinking like, okay, I'm looking forward to August because I'm going to take a big break in August and then just pushing in the hours before that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Even in my career, I've taken several sabbaticals and I've mainly, I've used those to have some kind of level of, how do I put it, recovery in between, in certain phases of my career. But yeah, focusing on the smaller ones is an important factor in avoiding getting to some level of burnout over time.
Definitely. Yeah. So let's start with the big one still, because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people know that it's important to take a week or 2 weeks of vacations, but maybe the aspect I can talk about here that's maybe new is the preparation and execution of it. It's critical to plan well ahead, get the necessary approvals, put the dates in your calendar, discuss with your team, take it into account when planning. What's less frequently practiced that everywhere is that I think you should be entirely cut off of work when you're going on a vacation, meaning you shouldn't check emails, you shouldn't check Slack. I know that some of our listeners will say that I can't afford that because there might be an emergency, an incident or something where I'm needed. It's fine. Leave a contact number with your team or your manager and be explicit that you're not going to check email, but you're thankful for them that you're allowed to do this because you know that they are going to call you if you're really needed. It happened to me also 2 years ago. I was on a big summer vacation and I got a phone call from one of my peers, another senior engineering manager, about someone in my team quitting. And I was grateful that they called me so I could give him my peace of mind and opinions about how to handle the situation. But when we hanged up and we dealt with the issue, I didn't feel the need to check email and Slack because I knew that if something similar would come up or if the situation would have escalated, they would have called me again. And this
Yeah.
gives you a great peace of mind to be able to
Yeah.
disconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I make it a habit to sign out of Slack on my phone.
Yes,
Um,
same.
it's like the number one email. Honestly, I don't have I don't check email on my phone
I
for
guess it
work.
depends on the work culture because some companies are very heavy on email still, and some there's just nothing in email.
Yeah. But on this, I think there's an important part of what you said about planning ahead. And for me, planning ahead isn't just about organization of work and making sure things are covered, and all the rest. As we go into this holiday period, end of year, people are often reflecting, looking back at the past year, planning the current year ahead, and so on. The thing that I would say is look at the kind of holidays you had this year. Think about the kind of holidays you like and what you want out of them. I know, Peter, you have a few really nice rituals. You do at least one bike packing trip a year,
Yeah.
a few things. And I think planning those kind of adventures too, and I think the planning isn't just about the timing and then I'm going to go on holiday, but it's being very specific about what you're trying to get out of your holidays. And obviously, if you have kids, you're probably being forced to plan ahead already because of the school holidays and everything else. But I think that's a really important part of planning ahead. Isn't just the scheduling, but
The content.
the content of it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very good tip. So you're sure that when you're back from vacation, you're not like, oh shit, 2 weeks has passed and I didn't go biking, I didn't do the hike, I don't know, work on that little woodworking project I wanted to do or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, yeah, that's a good tip.
yeah. I didn't have the weekend with my mates that I haven't seen for
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah.
months to catch up and just chill out together or whatever. Those are really energizing.
Yeah.
And you need to plan those ahead.
Yeah. And my advice is that don't think about work. But what I mean is don't think about the day to day and don't think about your current work. But what vacations can be good for is thinking more holistically about your career. Like, am I in a good place? Am I moving the right direction? Because when you're away, after a few days or a week, you gain some distance and perspective that helps you steer your career in the direction that you want to. So I saw, especially with sabbaticals, that was even a running joke in one of my earlier companies that it was a benefit that if you work there for 2 years or 3 years or something, you could take a 1 month sabbatical or something like this.
Well,
And everyone who took this and returned quitted in 6 months after, which really scared us because we didn't want people to leave. But on the other hand, it made me happy for them. They gained this perspective and they realized that they already spent like 5 years, 6 years, 10 years at this company. They want to try something else and they couldn't make this decision while being in the day to day. So to wrap it up, I advise you to distance yourself from the day to day during this vacation, both to recharge and both to get some perspective about where your life is going.
Exactly. I think Bill Gates does a reading holiday fairly often, and that's another good example of that kind of reflection.
Nice.
Okay. All
Just the
right.
last
So
one, I mini tip, but I found it very useful. When you're planning your holiday, in the first days when you're back, do some big 1 day or half day blockouts of in your calendar for catching up, because you really want to avoid trying to jump on a running train when you're back. So allocate at least a day to catch up so people don't book meetings in your calendar. Just a mini tip. I found it very useful.
yeah, great point that if you come back to work and you have to try and run full speed and at the same time catch up with, a
Burnout.
week or 2 weeks, you basically lose the effects of your holiday instantly.
Yeah, yeah, indeed,
So,
indeed, and
yeah.
and and it's very internal, because when I'm returning in August from a 2 week, 3 week holiday, I have some internal guilt that others were working and I was not. So I'm trying to prove
Yeah.
myself and jumping quickly into meetings and everything. Others are very understanding that you need some time to catch up. So just be very explicit about this. Block it in your calendar. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Peter, I get the idea of the big macro breaks, but what are meso breaks? Can you help me understand them?
So meso breaks are like 1.5 hour activities during the day. Maybe it's easier to understand if I say some examples, like instead of eating at your computer or quickly grabbing something, you go out for a proper lunch, or you take a longer walk during the day, or you watch a webinar about the topic that interests you, or I would even say having a proper day closing ritual at the end of the day where you assess what you achieved, set some goals for the next day and everything. Just this closing ritual, I would say that's also a kind of a meso break. It just helps you maintain resilience and
Mhm.
some physical and mental recovery in the day to day. So
Yeah.
plan these meso breaks, put it in your calendar. I really like putting everything that's about time in my calendar, both to keep my plans and force me to go with the plan that I had, but also to signal to my team both my availability and both that this is okay to do that.
Well,
If I explicitly, and my calendar is open for within the team. So that's a cultural thing. Some companies don't do that, but I really like that because it helps people see what I'm doing and decide if they can try to schedule a conflict.
well,
So putting in something like going for a walk after lunch, or putting in a 2 hour lunch break, not every day, I'm not saying that, but putting this explicitly just communicates that this is okay to do. And I don't expect people on my team to grind 10 hours every day without a break, because that's burning them out.
yeah, I think this is the bit where this can make a big difference. If to how you come out the end of your day. Do you feel like you've been in the ringer
Yes.
and you're just survived and then you collapse and you're no good, or do you feel like you had a sustainable pace?
Yeah. I would say
I
it's even
yeah.
longer term. Like I feel the effect of this rather towards the end of the week. So if I could do this during the week, then my Thursdays, Fridays, and weekends are easier.
There's a lot more to unpack on this beyond the breaks and kind of time management,
Mm.
tasks and calendars and so on that you went into. But what I would say is that most of us, when we're in crunch, and basically I'm a major, I'm an offender for this,
I
is
know.
the things that I drop are those. I don't go outside then. I won't go for the walk. I won't do any exercise. I cut all those things to fit in work and I prioritize work first. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah, and
Hard to do.
it's easy to drop this, but it's much easier to not do at all if you're not even putting it to your calendar. So it's the end of the year now. Everybody's doing New Year's resolutions. Maybe this is something you could try to do, not just you, Jeremy, but our listeners. Like, what does good look like for you on a personal level? How often do you want to take a 1 hour walk? Once a week, twice a week?
Well,
Put it as a recurring event in your calendar
well,
now, and then you're still free to move these a little bit and adjust for your
yeah.
regular meetings, but at least you have something in your calendar. I read it somewhere, I really liked it, that a to-do list that's not in a calendar is a wish list. What you're getting accomplished, it starts out by being a block in your calendar, because otherwise you're just wishing you would walk or wishing you would exercise, and it's not going to happen.
I've tried every approach to personal time management, and time blocking is the only one that seems to be effective for me, at least in my schedule. One thing that I find helpful is this advice to create an ideal week calendar. So like create a separate calendar.
Mm.
So you have multiple calendars, create a separate calendar, plug in your ideal week, so what time you wake up, what you do, time for your morning routine.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a walk in the morning or you do exercise or whatever, what your ideal slots are for lunch. Maybe you want to go running during lunch several times a week or whatever it is, the family time in the evening, et cetera, what your ideal bedtime is. So have a kind of like a ideal schedule, put it out there and overlay that and look at your current schedule and try and manage to get your current schedule into match a little bit
Mm-hmm.
with your ideal schedule. So
I really like
you
that.
you really it's again, I think what's really helpful is I put my ideal calendar when I look back at my week and I kind of cry a little bit these days, but it's triggering at least me to think about it and in your reviews. And then what you can do is you can try, okay, I'll try and fix this one thing about my schedule, my habits. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. And there's another aspect why I like it. And I think I'm going to give this a try because it's a very good idea. The aspect I like is that when you're working on your ideal week calendar, it gives you an opportunity to realize that maybe your ideals are unrealistic. Maybe all the things you
Well,
want to do in a week require 48 hours per day. And then you can make the hard decisions because time management, task management, there is only one hard decision to prioritize what you want to work on, what is important for you. And it forces you to make this decision very early. Like, sure, I want to make a big bike trip every day and I want to cook something new every day and I want to spend time with my kids and I want to do all of my hobbies and everything. And when I try to put them in an ideal calendar, I realize that it's not realistic. And then I'm forced to make decisions that, okay, maybe 1 hour per week for cycling is enough, or maybe one big trip per month. And yeah, I love that. That's something I'm going to try. Thanks.
yeah, because that's been a hard realization when I do that is I can't do everything I really wanted to do, or
That's life.
my like your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the hard
Yeah.
thing is, and we are really going off topic, but I love this topic because the hard thing is when you realize that prioritization is not about finding what's good and what's bad and separating it, but you need to make a choice between very good, very important, very impactful priorities. And that's super
Mm.
hard. Like, should I prioritize my hobbies, my family, my work, my mental health, my physical health? It's really hard. Adulting.
Going back to what you said earlier, you look at your ideal, then you look at the reality, and you ask yourself, wow, the reality tells me that I did prioritize something different. Like in my case, I didn't prioritize my health. I
Yeah.
didn't prioritize exercise. Okay, so then I don't value exercise. Is that who I want to be?
Mhm.
And it can trigger a good retrospective. Honestly, I have to say, I look forward to my end of year reviews. So as people are going to take their macro breaks, one thing I recommend is at an end of the year, you definitely reflect back. So
Yeah.
that's something that that's definitely an input that's going into my bigger break. And hopefully then I can replan how I do some of my ideal week.
Yeah. And going
Okay.
back to our topic, prioritizing exercise, prioritizing mental health, it has a positive impact on your work also. So
Yeah.
there is no excuse. You cannot say that at this part of my career, I need 200% focus on my work. Yeah, sure. That's what you want to do that. But in order to be efficient in that, you need to pay attention to your physical health and mental health.
Exactly. Okay, that makes sense. Then explain to me what the micro breaks are. Is this like when your watch buzzes and then you have to stand up, or what does it mean?
Could be, yeah, yeah. I mean, micro breaks, they are taking between a few minutes and I don't know, like a couple of minutes or sometimes even seconds. This can be considered a micro break. I'm talking about what you said. Yeah, when your watch buzzes that it's time to stand up, then you stand up and stretch a bit. It can take 2 minutes maybe, but it really
Right.
helps you physically also to help your circulation, but also mentally to get some distance. That am I doing the right stuff? Am I working on the good important things? You can. Another good example is taking some deep breathing exercises.
Mm.
You know me, I'm a very punctual person. I try never to be late from meetings, which means that oftentimes I'm the first one to join a meeting. And I used to use this time to review the agenda or just, browse the web, go to Reddit, check some Slack rooms. Nowadays, what I'm trying is to stay in front of the empty room and just breathe deeply, do some exercises, think about what I want from this meeting, and just stay in the present and enjoy these few seconds of break. And I found that it really helps both my mood and my resilience during the day and during the call to not
Okay.
start not something new in the beginning of a meeting. These micro breaks are especially useful for back-to-back meetings. Another quick tip, if you're using Google Calendar, set up speedy meetings. It means
Yeah.
by default, meetings are going to be scheduled 25 minutes or 50 minutes instead of half an hour and 1 hour. And it allows you to, if you're working remotely, get a break or just stretch a bit. And if you're working in an office, then go to the different meeting room and not be late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speedy meetings is something I've ritually done everywhere I've worked for quite a long time. I will say
Sharing the
though,
thoughts.
sometimes it's very hard to stick to that last 5 minutes because it's always like a buffer time that you can always use. And the worst is when you have half the team in the office,
Yeah.
they're always late because you have to kick someone out of a meeting room and whatever.
But actually, if the organization is disciplined enough, then they are leaving on time, even if they couldn't finish. And this allows people to use the meeting rooms.
Not always easy. You have to kick, a boss out of the room and depends on the company culture and all the rest. But yeah,
But let's talk about how to use these few minutes. Because there's the opposite side that you schedule a meeting for 25 minutes and you manage to finish on time or even finish a bit earlier and you have a little extra time. It's a typical pattern for managers to pick something from their virtual backlog or real backlog and just answer some emails, catch up on Slack rooms. I would advise not to do that because this robs you from the positive impact of this micro break that you have between meetings. So get up from
yeah,
the computer, grab a glass of water, stretch a bit, just, stare into the sun, whatever. Just, relax. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you pile on the stress if you use those moments in between to run on the hamster wheel a little bit.
Yes.
Whereas if you like, I think one tip that I remember from is you look far away and you need to get your eyes like changing focus.
Yeah.
And I like to stand up and look out the window just for a moment because if I don't, and I just basically have like a dinosaur kind of posture, more and more hunched and more, it's not good. And then I get to the end of the day and I'm really tense and my shoulders and my neck are in a really bad way. So
Tell me about it.
it's like physical signs tell you, are you doing it right or not?
Yeah.
Basically.
And you know what? It's really, really evil how our bodies work because you could do this without any repercussions when you were in your 20s or maybe even 25, 30. But both of us are in our 40s now. And if we do this for a day or two, like my neck is killing me now because a few weeks ago I had a stressful preparation and I neglected taking breaks. I needed to finish a presentation and everything. And it really shows
Yeah.
after. So it's like car maintenance. Like you change the oil every year. You do these regular checkups, not because it helps in this moment, but you do it for the long term resilience
Yeah.
and health. Yeah.
Okay. And is there any science to all of this, Peter, or is this just like good common sense,
No.
stuff?
There's a lot, and we're gonna link it in the show notes. Like there is significant increase in vigor, for example, for people who are taking breaks. There is this desktime.com time tracking software company that were doing some studies about the ideal time of work and break. Earlier, they found it 52 minutes of work followed by 17 minutes of break is the most ideal for performance, but they switched it now to 112 minutes of work and 26 minutes of break. I'm laughing at it because I found this widely artificial. Sure, I'm pretty sure the data points it, but I think everyone is different. And I think whatever works for you, you should stick to it. I think this is the time to mention the Pomodoro technique and time boxing. Both are working very well. You set a time box of 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever works for you with a clear outcome that you want to achieve. You work on this, set a timer, a Pomodoro timer, and then you take a break and then do these kind of sessions multiple ones per day. I found it working very well for me. I can concentrate easier if I know that I have only one focus during this session, and I can close emails, everything without guilt, because I know that I have only one goal for this 40 minutes. And one interesting lesson for me was that the pauses in these sessions are equally important. When the timer is off, I often find myself in the middle of flow, and I really don't want to stop, because it's very, it's a good feeling to see progress and work on something, being deep in it. But I found that if I skip on the breaks and continue, then by the end of the day, I'm much less energized. And so on the long run, I advise everyone to keep it. And actually, it's easier to pick up on a task if you leave something in the middle. One of the writers were saying something, I don't remember who, maybe Hemingway, but never mind that. They stop working when a sentence is half finished, because it's easier to pick up the continuation of the thought than ending at the end of a chapter, and then you have
having a blank page.
Having a blank page is super blocking. So this is what I try to do in work also. And if I'm coding something or writing an article, presentation, something, I just stop. I just stop when the timer rings and get away from it. And it's easier to pick up the thread.
I have to say, like coding, I like it like half finished, but honestly, I find it really hard. Maybe it's my OCD or I don't know what, but I find it really hard to leave like a half finished line of code or whatever. I want to get it working. I want that little buzz, that next
Same
bit.
Yeah,
So
it's really hard. It's really hard, but okay, so don't switch your work style. Just make an experiment. Next time, treat it as an experiment. Next time, set up a timer, and when it rings, walk away from the computer and just see the effect. It's not that hard to get back in context.
Okay. This is brilliant, Peter. I really think the topic is great, and hopefully people find it useful and actionable. We're actually coming to the end of season 2. Season 2 has been an experiment to evolve the format a little bit. And I was curious, what do you think we haven't covered on this topic? And as we look forward, what would you love to cover around this in season 3?
Okay, so on this topic, so just to summarize, we talked about the importance of taking macro breaks, meso breaks, and micro breaks or micro breaks. I advise everyone to balance the 3 and have some of them all. What we didn't talk about that could be a very interesting discussion is the team aspect of this. Like, how does taking a break for a team look like on all the 3 sizes? Like, I would say that maybe a team building event can count as a meso break, or maybe even a macro one. Having an icebreaker in the beginning of an update call can be a micro break. That's something I didn't think much about yet, but I think this can be an interesting topic. And season 3, I don't know. I really like the new format. I think we should continue to this back and forth of topic responsibilities. And I really like the target audience we are aiming for, engineering managers who want to learn about this.
Yeah.
What about you?
So, I think the team aspect is really important, and I think maybe we can tackle that rhythm of the team a little bit more in season 3. I really enjoyed season 2. I hope that audience finds it more actionable and helpful. I will say the stats that I've seen, we seem to have a little bit more listen time from people, so that's great. As you listen to this, if you can drop us a note to let us know what you think and how we can improve, I would really appreciate that. I know that Peter and I are going to do a bit of a retrospective on the retrospective. So your feedback on that would be great.
Yeah, okay. And thanks a lot for sticking with us this year. Yeah, have an ambitious, attainable, and resilient 2025.
Yeah. We wish you all the best for the year ahead, and I appreciate your support.
Yeah, see you next year.